Hello and welcome back to another episode of the One More Glass of Wine podcast. I'm joined, I'm really excited about this, by Nadia Hefer from the Old Vine Project. Welcome, Nadia. Thanks for joining us on the podcast.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm looking forward to our discussions and tasting some of the Waterford wines.
Yeah, we've got some interesting things to taste today. I've already poured you a glass, so I think we may as well introduce this wine nonetheless. It's a bit of a precursor, and we won't fib here today, so we kind of know what we're going on about. Cheers. Thank you for joining us. We are going to be talking a little bit about the Old Vine Project and our Chardonnay vineyard that itself planted in 98 joined the Old Vine Project. So we're really excited about that. That's just resting, getting a bit of a chill on it. It's unlabeled. We had to wrestle some people to allow us to drink this. I'm really excited. I've only had one glass, the opportunity to taste this, and I think there's maybe about 6 or 7 people who've tried this so far. So it's a great opportunity for us today. But Nadia, please tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you land up in the Old Vine Project?
Sure. My journey in wine started quite a few years back when I did my BSc in viticulture and wine. And even though I did not practice to actually be a winemaker, I realized that this is such a big and wonderful industry, and that there are so many different parts of wine tourism, marketing, working with fantastic groups like the Old Vine Project. So it was through, my studies that I really got that appreciation for wine and viticulture.
Okay. And do you feel that those studies, they've assisted you in your direction that you're going today?
Absolutely. It definitely provided a very good foundation and a good sound knowledge of the industry that I work in.
Okay, amazing. So maybe let's ask you a question a bit off book. What was your favorite aspect of your studies? Was it more the winemaking or the viticultural side?
Oh, that's a good question. Also, the first time that someone actually asked me that, I think initially when I did my studies, the winemaking was very appealing. But as I actually worked through the industry and over the years, I have a great appreciation for viticulture and just how that forms the basis of any good wine. So it's almost in later years that I started to appreciate the viticulture side more.
Okay, that's right. I love how we all learn and grow and see these different aspects of the industry. I know myself, I worked in our tasting room for 4 years. Before coming into the marketing side of things and getting exposed to the industry as a whole. It really changes your perspective on how things are done, the production of wine, how things are exported internationally, and all these accreditations that you can get, which are really exciting and growing our industry, such as the Old Vine Project Awards, or certification, rather, I should say. But yeah, tell us your history in working in the industry.
All right. So after I did my studies, I worked in marketing and branding and tourism. So I worked with Erniel's Wines for a few years.
Yeah.
And thereafter, I decided to further my studies, and I decided to complete my MBA in France. And then
That's amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you. It was an incredible experience. And, after completing that degree, I found my way back home and started to consult in the wine industry.
Okay.
And I've joined the Old Vine Project in 2018. And it's been an incredible journey to grow with the project. I'm sure we'll touch on the history of the project soon.
No, we'll have to, yes. Yeah.
But just in the few years that I've been involved, it's fantastic to see how this membership organization is just taking flights. Producers are collaborating, members of the trade, the media are all standing together for this very, I think, a noble organization that really stands for protecting heritage and advocating for how wonderful South African wines are.
Oh, that's spot on. So, well, give us a bit of insight into the Old Vine Project. How does it operate? How does it work? How do you get your vines certified into the project?
Okay. Well, I'll just give a brief overview of how the project started. So there is a lady, her name is Ruessa Creer, and Ruessa started to look for vineyards, old vineyards, back in 2002. She traveled extensively across the globe, and she came back to South Africa and asked the question, where are our old vines?
Okay.
And then she started to document where these old vineyards are located. And then a few years forward, our project formalized in 2016 with the support of the Rupert Foundation, and of course with a lot of support from SARVIS,
Okay.
which is the South African Wine Industry Information Systems. But SARVIS is much
Yeah, very important part of our industry, that's for sure.
Yes,
Yeah.
of course. And what is unique about South Africa is the fact that we have SARVIS. And
Okay.
SARVIS has a database of all vineyards planted, providing information such as the plant year, the rootstock, their location, exactly how many vines are planted in a block. So it's with this databases that we, as the Old Vine Project, can actually certify the plant date of a vineyard.
Okay. So like a massive log of everything vineyard related.
Absolutely.
Okay, so that's an amazing database to have access to. Working with them, is it quite a seamless, or was it quite a seamless integration into bringing the certification on board into South Africa?
I think Rosa had to walk, a road to get there.
Of course.
Of course, this is very confidential information.
Okay, we won't pry any trade secrets.
No, but Yvette van der Merwe from SARVIS
Okay.
presented the case to the board of SARVIS, and they agreed to let the Old Vine Project have access to this information. But it's a big responsibility and something that we definitely take care of that databases and that relationship with them. But I think SARVIS is such a powerful organization for us as South Africa in the global wine world.
That's so true. That's so true. So now from the vineyard side, there's an age limit to getting them, or that you have to get your vine to be a part of the project. Do you see a lot of vineyards working towards getting the certification, getting vineyards a little bit more on the age side of things?
Absolutely. So the certification age is at a minimum of 35 years or older.
Okay.
And that's only about 4% of the total hectares in South Africa that actually now qualifies to be an old vine.
Sure.
But what we see now is that producers are taking extra care of their vineyards so that those vineyards can reach the certification age. And we often engage with producers that have a vineyard that's maybe 32, 33 years old, already making contact with us, saying, this is in the pipeline, this is coming up. So
what's the process to get this
they
going?
are waiting and ready for the certification.
Okay, that's amazing. Well, speaking of the certification, we're tasting the 2023. I've had a couple of sips, I must admit. I couldn't hold myself back. This lovely glass up here is the 2023 vintage of our Chardonnay. So 35 years old, bearing the certification. We're really excited about it. It's a vineyard that's taught us a lot. I feel from a South African mindset, we've been dealing with more younger vines. No one's been pushing towards aging it. In particular, Chardonnay in the warmer climate here is not something that's well experimented with. So I would honestly put a lot of this wine success to the Old Vine Project, to you guys, and what you're doing for the industry in almost encouraging us to get this vineyard this old. And it's taught us so much. We're learning from this vine and implementing things in our Cabernet Sauvignon to get the vineyards to that age. What have we learned? How do the rootstocks handle the heat? So it's been an amazing journey with this particular vineyard. What do you think of the wine so far?
This, for me, is a very special wine. For two reasons. Of course, it being an old wine, it's just, you can see it in the way of the structure, the concentration. There's a beautiful, vibrant acidity and freshness in the wine. So definitely in terms of the profile, old wine, beautiful. And then I worked at Waterford Wines as a student.
Yes, yeah.
Probably when the vineyard was still a teenager. It was a few years back. And I've always just loved the Waterford Chardonnay. I
Oh,
think
that's amazing.
From the get-go, it was made with such finesse and, soft hand. So for those two reasons, this is a very special wine to me personally.
I'm so glad we picked this for you to come and taste with us then. That's so cool. Well, thank you for coming back almost like home and joining us. Again, we'll ask you something a bit strange, maybe not on the script, but our tasting room, a place where students have come and gone for many, many years. Walking in here, were there some fond memories that came back?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Working at Waterford was my first experience working in a tasting room and in a hospitality environment, and service excellence has always been a pillar of Waterford, and that goes right from the cellar to the tasting room to the marketing and sales team. And what I just remember from my time here was that absolute focus on service. You know,
Has not changed.
yeah, greet someone at the door. Each person is unique. You want to know where are they from, like what is their wine knowledge, experience, and then you take them on a journey. And it's the Waterford way. And I think that goes a very, very long way. And I think it's not only for people that work here that call it home, but for all your visitors, all your guests. I think it's if they can take a bottle of Waterford wines back with them, it's like the Waterford home on their side of the world.
Of course, yeah.
So it's a very powerful experience when you visit the tasting room.
That's for sure. It's where I fell in love with wine as well. I always loved a bit of wine. My dad was a big red wine drinker, or is still. And being here, working with Mark, David, and just learning from them, they imbue a lot of passion into the industry. So it's so amazing that you've come through and worked at so many different cellars, actually, to be honest, in different roles, and have found yourself almost ingraining yourself in the future and the past, the heritage of the South African industry. So Nadia, well done.
Thank you very much.
That's amazing. So going forward now with the Old Vine project, do you guys have particular goals? And how is it working with the individual vineyards in getting them, encouraging them to get their vineyards a bit older?
So in terms of our goals going forward, we want to place a big focus on research and development projects. There's already been fantastic research projects conducted in South Africa about old vineyards, but we want to eventually be able to answer the question, why did some vines get old and others didn't?
Okay.
What can we learn from vineyards to become more resilient in the future? What can we learn from them in the face of climate change?
Oh, that's a big one. That's really important.
It is these are the questions to ask to create a sustainable industry in terms of the viticulture aspect.
Of course,
so there are a few studies that we are going to launch within the next year, addressing those types of questions.
Okay. And speaking of things that you've just launched, the Old Vine Project Academy. It's a really exciting initiative. I love educational aspects, in particular in the wine industry. But for South Africa, I think it's something that's so important to growing our people and our presence in the international space. How has the Old Vine Project, or how did the Old Vine Project Academy come about?
So we've always been very focused on developing skills, especially in viticulture with our pruning classes that we present every year.
Okay.
And then, times changed. Of course, we had COVID a few years back.
Yes, yeah.
And during that time, there was a fantastic project that was developed by a group of German wine businesses. And they developed a Old Vine wine. It's a Pinotage Cinsault blend. And they sold this wine in Europe, and the proceeds came back to South Africa for heritage programs.
That's really cool.
So with that support, we developed the Old Vine Academy, which consists of an online course. Mm-hmm. And it's a course focused on the basics of wine, viticulture, sales, marketing, but with a focus on old vines and how old vines fits into that picture.
So it's a really holistic curriculum that people are getting.
Absolutely.
That's amazing. What sector or I guess of people are taking up the course more than others? Is it more restaurant side of things or hotels?
Yeah, so we're seeing a lot of wine trade completing the course.
Okay.
And I think especially for them it will be beneficial because we do focus a lot on how to use the unique selling points of an old wine to actually improve your delivery of the wine. We talk about how to have a elevator pitch, how to use the certified heritage vineyard seal on your story. So definitely for the person that sells wine, this is beneficial.
Yeah.
And then we also had a few wine lovers, people that just really enjoy wine, take up the course. And then along with Old Vine Project members, tasting rooms, hotel groups. So it's actually a wide variety of people that have taken the course so
That
far.
is so cool to hear as well, that so many facets of people are so interested. You say the members that are taking up the course. How many members of the project do you guys have?
So altogether at the moment, we've got just over 130 members.
Okay, nice.
And collectively releasing about 300 different wines a year.
Sure. Okay, that's
So,
a pretty big portfolio of things to manage.
yeah, so we are growing, and it's fantastic to see how collaboration is just driving this project forward.
Okay. And now with these individual members, do you see the members advocating for certifying your vines to be older in their particular pockets and regions? Because I know from our side, I mean, this is something we're singing from the high heavens, that we've got an old vine project, Chardonnay, and we're really hoping that the rest of our particular area is striving for aging of vineyard, for looking after the heritage and the soil as well that comes along with it. So maybe a bit of a convoluted question, but is there a large industry push towards encouraging everyone to certify?
Absolutely. We are seeing a lot of producers placing emphasis on viticulture, soil health, making sure that those vines can become old, and also wine industry peers motivating each other to join the project, to say, if you do make an old wine, join the project, become a member, and then you have access to the seal.
Yeah,
And the Certified Heritage Vineyard seal is very powerful.
for sure.
It indicates the plant dates of the vineyard, and it's really something that we now see that the market is looking for.
Okay.
We've got sommeliers, wine trade asking, if you have an old wine and you import it to Europe, it needs to have the seal. So we are seeing the market also wanting producers to certify their wines.
So amazing. That's so cool. That seal, it is a lovely little rectangular sticker. I've seen people placing it in different ways on their bottles, but it is always so nice. You almost have this sense of confidence in the bottle whenever you purchase one that's got that lovely seal on it.
Absolutely.
I see a lot of Chenin Blancs with the seal. I mean, Chenin has been in the country for ages and planted so widely. Is that the most widely certified Old Vine Project wine?
Yes, it is.
Okay. By quite a margin?
By quite a margin, but we also see that reflected in the vineyard hectares, the quantity of old vine vineyards that there are. So it's about 52% of all old vine vineyards are Chenin Blanc.
Wow, 52.
Yes,
Wow.
and that's more or less reflected in the wines in our portfolio. So Chardonnay is a new, old vine that we see emerging. Yeah. So there are only a handful of old vine Chardonnays available at the moment. Wow. So it's really something very unique and very special to have that very part of your portfolio.
Okay. Well, good on the team here at Waterford for keeping that guy going. I mean,
absolutely.
We recently had Sheldon van Wyk on the podcast as well. What an incredible man. to hear his stories. He was telling us that there's a 120-year-old odd vineyard of Simeon that he's working on, or has worked with. That I didn't expect vineyards in South Africa to be that old. Is that the oldest vine in South Africa? Do you guys keep that on track?
Yeah, so basically, that's an interesting question. Sarvis has the planting dates back to 1900. So that's
wow.
basically when the system of Sarvis started. But there are one or two blocks that is believed to be planted in the 1880s.
Okay, wow.
So it's one or two, so there's not a lot, but then there are quite a few options between 1900 and 1910. So they are very old vineyards, and it's a testament that they, even though the yield is lower, they still produce brilliant wines.
Of course, and people still feel, or producers still feel, that they're adding the value that vineyard should be adding. I mean, that root system must be so integrated into the earth. The quality of that wine must be incredible.
Yeah, no, it is.
Yeah,
for sure.
There's in our valley, I believe. De Trafford up at the top works with the Old Vine Project Shannon, same as ourselves, coming from somewhere out in Bottleray. So now here we're still talking the Shannon Old Vine story. What's the next runner-up when it comes to old vines, or cultivar-wise? Which one is the second biggest component of the portfolio?
So, lots of Chenin Blanc, and then we are seeing Sauvignon Blanc emerging quite a bit.
Wow.
Which is also very interesting to see that the old vine, version and expressions of Sauvignon Blanc.
Yeah.
Then beautiful old vine Colombar.
Okay.
Old Vine Simeon is already well known and quite
yes.
established.
Yeah.
And then Cinsault, some Pinotage. So we are seeing other varieties coming into play with the old vines.
Oh, that's really, really cool. And then the future of the Old Vine Project, your guys' vision. Obviously, we would love to have every single vine here in South Africa planted, be an Old Vine Project certified vine and producing a wine with bearing the seal. What's the direction in getting there? How are we working towards getting people to love and sign up for the certification?
I think in terms of our, vision going forward, we really want to create that sustainable value chain, that it goes from, the person selling the wine, making the wine, right back to the grower. So it's important that we pay attention to that value chain and that becomes sustainable. And also we need to now start developing vineyards and taking care of them right from the get-go. When you do a vineyard design, you need to think about, is that the correct way of planting? Look at the trellising system, look at the site, and really focus on planting to grow old, planting for the future. I think it's that element to get vineyards old, and then also to take care of the vineyards and the vineyards that are viable. Sometimes the old vine, it's not necessarily that all old vineyards are good.
Of course,
there are things like disease where you need to possibly evaluate, is that vineyard sustainable? So we do work with the planting for the future, and then also taking care of the heritage that we have.
I love that there's also the focus on the new plantings and sharing that information of, you need to work on X, Y, and Z to get your vineyard to be able to grow that old. That's an incredible value chain that you guys are implementing into our industry. And I value what you guys do. I think the Old Vine Project Shannons, I've got a family friend of mine who swears by them. He won't buy a Chenin Blanc without the sticker on the top of him. Fantastic. He's a huge Chenin Blanc fan. Yeah. So even from a marketing side of things, I mean, you already touched on it. I believe a lot of internationals are also looking and seeing it. International wine lovers, people who ventured here and come taste it in tasting rooms here in South Africa, are seeing the seal, and they're believing in it. They're believing in the quality. And I mean, there's a statistic not a statistic necessarily, but the South African soils are some of the oldest viticultural soils in the world. I saw somewhere 600 million years old or something like that. That is it's a crazy amount of time for these soils to be around, to have the minerals and the nutrients. And I really feel that the best way to portray that, our terroir, is through the Old Vine Project. So that's it. It really is incredible. How long has the project actually been going on for?
So Rosa started with the Old Vine journey in 2002.
Okay.
And then the project was formalized in 2016.
Okay, wow.
Yes.
Well, that's also quite a journey to get the project formalized.
Yes, and Rosa is a vineyard manager, so she manages and develops different vineyards. So for her, it was absolutely also like a journey of, finding these old vines and these hidden gems, and that she did in her own time.
Oh, wow.
And then, the project started to gain momentum. There was Mark Kent from Buchenholz Kloof who made his Semyon. Eben Sadi did his Old Vine series.
Of course, yes.
So then, there was momentum starting, and people were starting to specifically see the quality of these old vineyards.
That's for sure.
And it's very much about everyone standing together, and it's a project for our producers. It's not a project for one party or one person. It's really what our producers make of it.
Yeah, that's incredible. It's a lovely unification of our industry. And I mean, we must stand on that. It's the South African wine industry and the brand of South African wine that everyone should be pushing forward and putting their best foot forward.
Absolutely.
Okay, so Nadia, the research projects, you touched a little bit on them. What's the goals? What research are we gathering with these projects?
So South Africa is really a forerunner in the research of old vineyards. So there have been a few projects conducted by Stellenbosch University. One of them being with the Chenin Blanc Association, where they did a study on old vine Chenin Blanc and young vine Chenin Blanc and what the sensorial differences are. And with this, the research team actually got new aroma profiles that they could then allocate to this is an old vine Chenin aroma, and then added that to the Chenin Blanc aroma wheel.
That is so cool. That is incredible. What great research.
Oh, no, it's fantastic. And it's there are some aromas, but there's also, that texture, complexity, mouthfeel are also attributes that they identified in the study.
Okay. Any big difference that someone could notice between a younger vine Chenin and an older vine Chenin? What is that aroma that they slotted in?
So there's a variety of additional aromas that they added to the aroma wheel.
Sure.
But for me personally, and this is also what the research showed, was there is a great texture and
of course,
complexity, a mouthfeel, concentration, and it's almost less about those very forward varietal aromas that you would expect, but the wine reflects the site. It reflects the place that it's from.
The terroir of the vineyard. Okay, you touch on concentration there, and that's something I feel some people might not necessarily understand unless they've tasted between the two. And I mean, we won't give away secrets. Listeners, you guys have got to go and try some old vine Chenin versus young vine Chenin. But how does the vine get this concentration? Is this a change that it goes through in its age?
So when a vine ages, it tends to decrease its yield, and it's almost like the wine becomes in equilibrium with its environment. So it knows, how to control the yield that it delivers. So with this, with a lower yield, you can also expect a higher concentration.
Okay, so fewer bunches, fewer grapes. There's more essentially going into them, more concentration in them.
Yes, and it's that vine knows how to control its resources.
Okay.
Within time.
Oh, these things are so intelligent. I feel every time I chat to a different person in the industry, I'm learning something new about a vine and how adaptable they actually are. They're so incredible with picking up their environment, and you say it regulates its resources. That's incredible. A plant can do that. That's incredible.
Yeah, no, it's a fascinating world, and I think there's so much more that we can learn from vineyards and from nature. So it's absolutely it's fascinating.
Very cool. Yeah, go for it.
Okay, no, I wanted to go on
No,
to
so please tell us. Yes.
Yeah, so sorry. A second research project that Stellenbosch University conducted was on the juice of old vine pinotage and young vine pinotage.
Oh, that's interesting.
So same block, same material, but the difference in age. And that actually resulted in us finding out that older vines have a higher acidity at a lower bulling.
Interesting.
So in terms of the juice that an old vineyard delivers, it almost comes to the cellar in a very good condition.
Of
So
course.
you don't want to manipulate that juice too much. And this is fantastic research that Professor Johan Burger from Stellenbosch University did.
Okay. So a higher acidity at a lower belling. Belling being sugar, more or less in your grapes, so concentration. So, wow, that's incredible to learn. So the vine is maturing its acids very well at an older age.
Yes, and it's also, that vibrant acidity that you can almost like taste in old vines. It's almost like a golden thread that runs through old vine wines, is that perceived freshness, that vibrancy. And that's something that, if I taste an old vine wine, I always look out for that freshness that an old vine brings.
Your golden thread, I love that.
Yes.
I love that. I'm going to start looking out for those in old vine wines. I really think that there's more people that need to hear your message. Is this information available for most people to see, or are we compelling people, you got to do the Old Vine Project Academy? I mean, this is something that I'm quite excited about. I definitely think I'll be doing it in the future. Information like this, where could people find more about you guys?
Well, people are welcome to visit our website, www.oldvineproject.co.za. And here we've got a brief summary of our activations, our members, and the research projects.
Yeah.
And then in the Old Vine Academy, we really unpack the research projects. And
Amazing.
we have interviews with Dr. Elian Nieuwoud on Chenin Blanc, with Dr. Johan Burger on his study.
Wow.
Or Professor Johan Burger on his study, and then also Dr. Jonathan Stein, who talks about the commercial value of old vine wines.
Wow.
So there you can really listen to the experts themselves
Of course.
share their stories via video interviews.
What an incredible opportunity to meet some very influential people in this sphere. That's incredible.
Yes, and we have Tim Akin talking. We've got Kathy van Sale. So we've got two masters of wine sharing their views on old wines, and also with an international perspective. So we really did cover a wide variety of speakers.
Amazing.
In the Old Vine Academy.
Sure, what a great way to learn. What a wonderful way to learn. And I love the international, the fact that you touch on that. I don't feel people have felt that South Africa has been a pioneer in something for a while. Maybe I'm selling us a bit short here, but something like the Old Vine Academy, or Old Vine Academy, Old Vine Project, what you guys are doing really is an innovation in looking after your heritage in the international space, so we can start producing those authentic South African wines.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And I think in an industry where we need to focus on delivering quality wines at good price points, the Old Vine Project really also advocates for have quality wine and at the right price, so that we can support that value chain that is behind making wine.
Of course. So I'm going to put you on the spot here, Nadia, a little bit. I need you to talk about some wine that you got in front of you here. Between the 2020 and the 2023, so there's only a couple of years difference, but I mean, as we know in the wine industry, a couple of years, a couple of days in harvest can completely change the wine that you're making. How are you enjoying the Old Vine Project, the 2023, versus, I mean, this is an exceptional one, the 2020. How are you finding the difference between them?
So with the two examples or the two wines we have here, there's basically it's a 3-year difference in
That's the one, yeah.
the age where the grapes were harvested, and you can already see in the 2020 that there is complexity, that there is that beautiful mouthfeel that you get that you expect from an old wine. But for me, the 2023 especially has this vibrant acidity. It's there is a beautiful fruit concentration, but it's focused and it knows what it wants to be. And for me personally, there's always this golden thread that I look for in old wines, and it is that acidity, that vibrance. And I think that really carries a wine, and that the vibrant acidity can carry a wine into aging. And it's something that, we can age white wines in South Africa, and I think especially with old wines, because of that perceived freshness, that acidity, that will carry the wine into aging.
I love that you touch on the ageability with the acidity. I feel with the new wave of winemaking, there is a push for more freshness, a little bit more vibrant fruit. And I think the older wine drinker might be a touch concerned that the wines won't necessarily go the distance. But there are professionals around the industry advocating that this is still going to give great longevity. Speak of the South African white wine ageability, it's blowing people away. Just the other day, we tasted a 2014 Sauvignon Blanc. How's that? 10-year-olds have. It was still vibrant. It was still fresh. I think that speaks a lot to the conditions that we have here in South Africa and our ageability. And in particular, if we're talking the Old Vine project with your concentration that we were looking at, the vibrance, the acidity, that's definitely all components that are going to age gracefully for many, many years. So I'm quite looking forward to it. I love journeying with my bottles of wine. The 2023 vintage, I'm so excited for it to come out and to start impressing people with what older vineyard Chardonnay can really produce.
As a first taste, and I can just say it's incredible and definitely something that people will look forward to drinking.
Yeah, my winemaking team makes my job quite easy. They make amazing wine, don't they?
Absolutely.
Nadia, thank you so much for joining me. You're an absolute star. You guys are doing such amazing work at the Old Vine Project. I really look forward to seeing the direction in the future, and I really hope that more vineyards start pushing through and getting their vineyards old and certified as well. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Cheers.
And thank you for being such an incredible Old Vine ambassador and the Waterford team with your Chenin and Chardonnay. Wishing you all the best.
Thank you so much, Nadia.